recently we gave you a story about how Chris Cuomo, one of the top hosts at CNN, had a little bit of an existential threat during his Sirius XM show, which, by the way, I forgot. The name of that show is Let's Get After It. So,
Is that really?
yeah, which I love. Anyway,
Yeah, he likes it. He's sticking with it.
he is sticking with it. So during one of his recent episodes, he talked about how, he felt like he was wasting his time doing what he does at CNN and how he hates indulging these hyper partisans who come on the program to debate. But then later he walked back his statement and said, he was having a moment. And I was candid too. I have those moments where you just feel down and you feel like what you're doing isn't making an impact. I think it's a normal feeling to have. But one of the other things he mentioned was some biker guy who apparently came up to him and said some mean things about him, and he wanted to tell him off, but he couldn't because you are expected to behave in a certain way when you are a public figure. So The Hill reported that biker has filed a police report against Chris Cuomo. The report filing with the East Hampton Police Department came after Cuomo shared a story on his SiriusXM radio show on Monday about a, quote, jackass loser biker who got in his space because he was in the front yard with 2 women and 3 children at the home, which is still under construction. So, by the way, when I hear biker, I think of like motorcyclist, but no, this was a bicyclist, like not an actual.
Yeah. I assumed it was a biker too.
Yeah, because when you hear biker, you think of motorcycles, but no, this was a bicyclist, and you like my imitation of bicyclist.
That's how they ride.
Yeah, that's how they ride. The Long Island bicyclist is actually a 65-year-old man who only identified himself as David. He told the New York Post that he decided to file a police report to document the alleged incident in case he feels that this guy is a threat to me. So here's what David said. He said, I just looked and said, is that Chris Cuomo? Isn't he supposed to be quarantined? David said after one of the 2 women there approached him, I said to him, your brother is the coronavirus czar and you're not even following his rules, unnecessary travel. And so he alleges, remember, this is what he's alleging, that Cuomo responded by saying, who the hell are you? I can do what I want. He just started ranting and screaming, I'll find out who you are. Cuomo responded, according to David. He said, this is not the end of this. You'll deal with this later. We will meet again. If that's not a threat, I don't know what is. Huh. So again, this is the perspective of David. We weren't there. We don't know exactly what happened. But I will say this. Look, it's interesting to hear like Cuomo's experiences and how much he hates being approached by people who criticize him and are aggressive. As a woman, I've had it happen to me a number of times, and it can be intimidating and it can be scary at times. And you don't want people up in your personal space, especially when you're with family, right? Like I get really guarded when I'm around family, and like my husband has a podcast and I'm a terrible wife because I just won't promote it because like people are terrible, and I'm like obsessed with protecting him, and I just don't want him to go through the stuff that I go through. So like I get Cuomo's perspective. At the same time, like I don't know if he threatened this guy. If he did, he shouldn't be threatening, private citizens. But again, we don't know. We don't know for sure. Just going based off he said.
Yeah, well, you remember the video of the guys, on like Long Island or something like that like came up to him, and the whole origin of the Fredo thing that every Trump lover tweets at him 100 times a day. So that does imply to me that the idea that he might threaten someone is not impossible to imagine because we have seen it. But it also tells me this probably happens constantly. And that video coming out probably led to a lot of people wanting to get into his face just to see, what kind of reaction they can get out of him. Maybe they can record it. Like imagine the daily toll of people like that coming after you just constantly. And the fact that Trump talks about him all the time on Twitter, attacks him constantly too, and attacks other members of his family. Like we might disagree with members of his family on any number of different political things, but that probably leads to a lot of harassment, which is annoying. And if he's already sort of questioning some aspects of this job, what it's achieving, what is even possible to achieve in media these days, then, in a time when he's worried about the life of him, his own life, the life of his family, whether they're going to be healthy, that's probably put him over the edge.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think people, because we live in America where people have been told over and over again that fame is the greatest thing in the world, that being known is the greatest thing. I actually think it's one of the worst things, especially if you're known but you don't make any money, or you don't make like $6 million a year like Chris Cuomo does, right? Like, because the whole point of being known or being famous or being a public figure is like you can leverage that for, better earnings, for instance. But anyway, that's beside the point. Regardless of how much money you're making doing what you do, if you're working in a job that requires you to share political opinion in an incredibly toxic political environment, yeah, people come up to you and it feels threatening at times. And, it's one thing for you to personally feel threatened. It's even worse when you're surrounded by people that you love and care about. And like at the very least, it's annoying. At the very worst, it's threatening, and you get protective of your family and the people around you. So I just want to share that perspective, because I think people are under the assumption that like if you're rich or if you're a public figure, like you're like some superhuman that's like above it and won't, get rattled by something. But people get rattled because the threats are real, and like, some of the way people communicate with you when they disagree with you these days can get scary sometimes.
Yeah. And buckle up for the rest of the election on that note.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.